In a pivotal move for his 90th birthday, His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, has officially announced that the Gaden Phodrang Trust, his personal trust, will solely oversee the recognition and selection of his reincarnation, the next Dalai Lama. The decision, of course, carries profound geopolitical implications for India, for China too. In India, of course, the Dalai Lama has lived in exile since 1959. And, of course, the Tibetan government in exile is in Dharamshala. So, according to Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the Dalai Lama is the reincarnation of a past spiritual master. The 14th Dalai Lama, born as Lhamo Thondup on July 6, 1935, to a farming family in northeast Tibet, was identified as such a reincarnation when he was just 2 years old. In the winter of 1940, Lhamo Thondup was taken to the Potala Palace in Lhasa, the capital of today's Tibet Autonomous Region, and officially installed as the spiritual leader of Tibetans. In 1959, at 23 years old, the Dalai Lama fled to Dharamshala with thousands of Tibetans following a failed uprising against Mao Zedong's communist rule, which gained control of Tibet in 1950. Days before the formal announcement, the Dalai Lama revealed that the institution of the Dalai Lama would continue and that its foundation, the Gaden Phodrang Foundation, will oversee the identification and recognition of the next Dalai Lama. The Tibetan Parliament in exile supports this process to ensure continuity of spiritual leadership outside Chinese control. Now, after a Dalai Lama passes away, senior lamas and monks look for spiritual signs, visions, dreams, unusual phenomena to kind of guide them to the location of the new reincarnation. Monks are dispatched across Tibet, sometimes beyond, to find young children born around the time of the previous Dalai Lama's death, believed to show signs of being the reincarnation. Candidates are given objects to identify, including items belonging to the previous Dalai Lama. If a child picks the correct ones, displays exceptional insight, they are believed to be the true reincarnation. The child is then trained in Buddhist philosophy and gradually takes on a religious role, culminating in enthronement as the new Dalai Lama. The Gaden Phodrang was originally the name of the government established by the 5th Dalai Lama back in the 17th century. It was both the spiritual and temporal authority in Tibet, ruling from the Potala Palace in Lhasa. For centuries, this institution was central to Tibetan governance, combining monastic leadership with political power. After the Chinese annexation of Tibet in 1950 and the subsequent flight of the 14th Dalai Lama to India in 1959, which I told you about, the Gaden Phodrang was re-established in exile. Over time, its role evolved. In 2011, the Dalai Lama gave up all political authority, passing it to the democratically elected Central Tibetan administration. The Gaden Phodrang remained his personal spiritual office, which he then formalized as a non-profit trust to carry forward his religious legacy. While succession in Tibetan Buddhism is steeped in religious tradition, as you made out from the process I explained, it's right now under growing geopolitical scrutiny as well, with China insisting that it will choose the next Dalai Lama and Tibetan Buddhists rejecting that claim outright. For Tibetans in exile, the Dalai Lama is a symbol of their identity, their culture, and religious continuity. For Beijing, he represents a separatist figurehead whose influence undermines Chinese control over Tibet. So China has made no secret of its intention to identify its own Dalai Lama candidate using state-controlled religious channels. While it's never appointed a Dalai Lama before, Beijing has repeatedly signaled, particularly through a 2007 regulation, that it intends to name its own successor after the 14th Dalai Lama passes. China bases its claim on a 1793 Qing dynasty edict which introduced the golden urn system, a lottery-based method to select reincarnated lamas. Though seldom used historically, China now insists it must be the only method allowed. For China, the reincarnation and succession of religious figures are not simple matters of tradition, it's about China's claim over Tibet. Another significant point of contention is the reincarnation of the Panchin Lama, the second highest figure in Tibetan Buddhism. In May 1995, the Dalai Lama recognized Gaden Nyama as the 11th Panchin Lama. Gaden was 6 years old at the time. Days later, Chinese authorities took Gaden and his family into custody. He's not been seen since, and the Chinese government later named another boy, Gyaltsen Norbu, as the Panchin Lama. Norbu has since risen through official religious ranks, even recently met with President Xi Jinping. What's India's stand in all this? Well, India has raised a strong objection to China's demand that Beijing must approve the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, asserting that no one except the Tibetan spiritual leader himself has the authority to decide on his successor.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe. If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.